Hey everyone, Greg from My Mortgage. Just wanted to talk about when you're selling a property and then buying again, how you can make sure that you aren't homeless during that time. There's often a time where you've sold one and the other hasn't been purchased, or there's some different variations there. So just some different options for you to consider. Because the obvious one is that you sell your house, and so it settles, and you settle on your new property on the exact same day. Now that's an ideal situation, and then there's this transition. You move out in the morning, move in the afternoon, all good to go. Sometimes that's not possible. So what are some of the other options that you've got? So obviously, we've found it with some people, we're able to hold on to the property they're selling. Potentially we hold on to that and buy the new property. So that's what used to be called bridging finance. Bridging finance isn't as straightforward as it used to be. After the 2013 Responsible Lending Code, the banks have to make sure that you can fund both of those, the debt against your existing house plus the new one. So it can get a little bit complex, especially if there's not excess income to use here. But there are some ways that we can look at doing that. So that potentially could be an option for you, that you actually hold on to both and fund the debt. There's obviously the cost of that, so you need to consider it, but that could be an option. There's also the option of a really obvious one that lots of people do, is staying with family. Hey, we're going to move out and chuck our stuff into storage and go and stay with family for a week or two or something like that. You can often also, if you've sold your house, you could potentially rent that off the new owners. So especially if it's been bought as an investment property, often the owner will be more than happy for you to stay on for a few weeks and you just pay rent to them, which means you don't have to move, which is kind of quite handy. And same the other way, we've had clients where they've sold their house, they're buying a new house, and that new house is actually empty. But they're waiting for title, or maybe whatever, the settlement can't be pulled forward, and so then they're renting their new house off the current owner. And obviously, although you're paying rent, you're also not paying a mortgage during that time, and it just means you only have to move once, which is quite helpful. And often you may have to go and rent somewhere else. So when you build a house, potentially you've sold your house has been built, it might be for 6 months or 8 months that the build is ongoing, and so you may need to go and rent somewhere else. And then that gives you a few options in terms of, you don't necessarily have to rent something in the same area where you're going to be building, or potentially even to the same level. So you can actually jump into something that's maybe a little bit cheaper, or in a different area, which might not be your ideal area, but you're only there for a really short time until your house is built as well. Just looking at ways of potentially keeping the rent down. So there are some options of how you can make sure that you're not homeless over that period when you've sold a house and looking to